we have our first stat check weather event of the game, enhancing the Glacier's stats for both attacking and defending for the next 2 turns. So if Ice can find an opening here, he should definitely amass some units and attack in the next couple of turns here. This also slows down what Onslaught Fire wants to put onto Ice. They need to, double check that they win those battles or that they confidently win those battles. But that being said, it looks like the focus should definitely be turned to water here. I would be looking away from Ice here. We've already mentioned that Fire could have put themselves in a winning position with the last, advantage card utilized. But, where they're sitting right now, it's still, pretty comfortable. They just need to get those soldiers to the front line. So we'll see what happens. Going to the Ice player. The market tile disappears in a few turns because it will become the Aether tile after turn 10. Curious to see what is Ice's out here. They have the weather event, which will allow them to gain, maybe some new territory in these next couple of turns here. In all honesty, maybe we turn this into a 3v1 scenario where it really is a race to kill the water player here. But like I said, things can happen that, put people back in the game. Ice in the tier 2 activates their Polar Bears card, which essentially gives them 2 armies for free, but they're on a short leash. They can only venture 2 tiles away from the Blizzard tile that they begin at. So, large oppressive force, especially coupled with that weather event that's bolstering their attack and their defense, he could definitely take a couple of Fire's tiles here. I'm seeing where he's putting these units currently. I would be putting them right here. Absolutely would be putting them right here. And then I'd be taking both of these tiles. Why am I putting them in there? Because it's further away from Fire Nation's units. I can take this one for free, absolutely taking it, even though I'm not getting any resource or anything from taking this tile, because the boss has already been defeated. But I also get the field for free, removing food from the Fire Nation's pockets, resulting in less soldiers coming to my door. Not to mention the fact that I'm still strong for the next couple of turns. That's definitely where I should have put their armies. He purchases, I believe, 3 soldiers, or no, he just shifted the soldiers from the Rainforest tile onto his iceberg. Pretty awesome. He constructs a barracks on the iceberg. It's the only structure that is allowed on the iceberg. It's a roving fortress that allows you to grow your numbers while it's sailing. Pretty cool. But because he moved those soldiers onto the iceberg this turn, the iceberg cannot move. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase 1 more soldier, which costs him 4 food. Activates his tier 1 frigid ability, which is going to halt the movement of the Fire Nation here on any tile that's adjacent to his Blizzard tiles. Once again, this is reiterating the fact that he should have put his units down here, because then these 2 units, although it's just a general and a soldier, wouldn't be able to come to the aid of whatever standing he puts down here. The other thing is that his armies could absolutely obliterate these units here. So it's... Maybe he attacks a lake here, but what I would do as a player is if I know I'm going to activate Frigid, then I'm having my units down here, and I'm splitting them up, and I start to move towards the Fire Nation capital here. He takes the Pegasus tile for free, and he could take the lake tile here. This is a pretty confident win for Ice here with that secondary army. We just went ahead and said that he utilized the market before his attack there. He exchanges 2 food for a building material so that he can fortify the tile that he just took. He opts to not attack with that second army. This is, in my opinion, a pretty bad mistake here. Ice could put fire on a clock. So we go to the Fire player here. Let's see how he responds. He should be driving further into the Water Nation. He's not, like, as it stands right now, like, Ice is putting pressure on him, but it should have been way more. And I wouldn't be feeling too much pressure right now. I've got food resources. I can generate soldiers over the next couple turns to defend my base. I'm feeling pretty good. Fire draws an announced card that forces 2 nations, he can even pick himself, 2 players at the table to roll a dice. The high roll wins. The winner gets to take 5 resources of any combination from the other player or one of their advantage cards. Pretty huge. And Fire opts to make Ice and Water duke it out. So let's see if Water can get back in the game here. Water rolls a 3 and Ice rolls a 4. Not too much use in taking food away from the Water Nation. As he has 56, if anything, it would be to feed your soldiers. I would almost always go for the advantage card here, unless I'm truly starved. The Ice player opts to take an advantage card from the Water Nation, which will force the ice player to discard or activate a card immediately, as that will put him over the 4 limit. You can only have 4 advantage cards in your hand at a time. I love seeing these players like hold the abilities that they're weighing, playing, or whether or not he's holding that defrosting ability, which is going to melt the ice on those blizzards, which would cancel out the frigid effects that the Glacier player played this turn. So yes, the fire player kind of stuck here. These units are flooded from the water player, and these units right here are currently frozen in place via the frigid ability from the Glacier player. 1 building material short of building a forward barracks on that lake. It would have been very, very huge if he was able to do that. So that avalanche, once again, coming to bite the fire player. He can't move a soldier to the market here. These movement impairing abilities, he's getting 2v1 right now, and all he needs is to just shift 1 unit over, and he can't do it. He activates the Dwarven Alliance Advantage card, which allows you to purchase soldiers from a mountain tile that is owned for 2 building materials apiece. He only has 2 building materials, which means that is going to put him to 0. You can purchase up to 3 soldiers utilizing this card. Goes to the field in order to optimally activate the defrosting card. This is an ability that you take as the Fire Nation if you know that ice is going to be at the table. Because this is one of the only ways to get past those very, very difficult to traverse walls of the Ice Nation. I don't like this play, though, because ice is in tier 2, which allows him to simply re-blizzard those tiles if he wanted to. And fire is not able to attack in the same turn. So he's feeling the pressure. He's feeling like his opportune moment is on a clock. He thinks that ice, could march at him, potentially remove him from the game. But you shouldn't be feeling the pressure there. You should have been feeling way more pressure here. But you don't want to activate that card unless you can attack in the same sequence of events. And we go to the very rich Water Nation here. 56 food, 0 building materials. Let's see what he does. How can he salvage this? And the water player, after winning the Dragon's Lair, and because both of these soldiers, both of these tiles with the fire units are frozen in place, the Water Nation can finally access the market. Which is, honestly, everyone at the table should be afraid of that. Trades in the maximum amount of food that he can, 10 to get back 5 building materials this turn. What is he going to do with the building materials this turn? You almost certainly have to rebuild the resource building on your mountain. You got to get that building material, that natural production back. But obviously, these next few turns, you're putting in 10 food for 5 building materials every single time at the market. He's moving his units forward to fortify those outer tiles while he can. Very, very good. He does construct the resource building on the mountain once again, putting him to 46 and 2. And I believe he is now producing 2 building materials naturally a turn. Calculating what Fire's chances of winning these next couple battles here, Water does have a decent defense here. With soldiers on the front, his general is present there. He owns 2 lakes as well, which is going to add 2 to his soldiers' dice roll in this defense. Pretty solid. Fire's adding +3 to their dice rolls, but with that home field advantage and the disadvantage against Water, it's not a fight that Fire necessarily wants to take. He purchases as many soldiers as he can, which is still just the 3, putting him to 37 and 2. To 37 and 0. Honestly, it's pretty solid for getting back into the game. Heirs at 25 and 16 can't exchange those resources to get to tier 3. Which, that's okay. He can simply do it next turn. Constructs a barracks on one of his outer tiles. Moves a soldier to the Elemental Temple. Spins 5 and 5 to get back his Swift to the Front tier 1 ability. Simply moving some units around, combining into armies. I think he really wants to keep his resources to the point where he can get to tier 3 next turn. Although, not sure if it provides an opening immediately for him. So maybe you do just generate soldiers here. He goes ahead and buys 3 soldiers with that forward barracks, putting him to 11 and 8. And that's the end of turn 7. That was an incredibly long turn here. So we're moving into turn 8. Air still largely untouched. Water back in this game in terms of its economy. We'll see what the resource count looks like. So here we have the updated resource totals going into turn 8, and we see where everyone's in a really, really good spot. Glacier and Air in a pretty balanced position in terms of both food and building materials. However, Air obviously the better off. And Water finds himself in a spot where they can quickly progress in this game should they be able to shift some of those building material or some of that food over to building material so they can advance to tier 2. Once they advance to tier 2, and I've said this before in this series of videos, Water can empty their box of pieces utilizing their abilities. Very, very, very huge. Let's see what happens as we enter turn 8. Glacier hits 5 advantage cards in the hand upon drawing that one. Either has to activate one or discard one. Activates an advantage card that's going to remove a defensive fortification. Actually, this card is capable of removing up to 2 defensive fortifications, 1 tile away from his general. Chooses to take away Fire's newly constructed defenses there. Just after these tiles were defrosted via Fire's ability, he's going to re-blizzardify those same 2 tiles, Swamp and Field. Glacier's attacking the field with an army versus 1 soldier for Fire. This is a pretty good win for Ice, unless they roll a 1. Can see the 1 right here. Fire just has to roll a 3 or higher, or a 2 or higher with Tailwind actually in effect here. Tailwind having a pretty big impact on this play. Fire rolls a 5, and so what is an underdog win here? Fire does win the 1v5 situation with home field advantage. Taking advantage of the last turns with his polar bears, he's going to attack this other tile here. An army versus a general and a soldier, it should be a win, unless you're rolling 1s and 2s. So he plays the advantage card that is going to remove the general's attack here. So really, this is an army against a soldier once again. Ice rolls a 2, only takes 1 tile there. Constructing a couple of resource buildings in order to enhance his building material production. Pretty solid here. Fire doesn't have to feed their soldiers next turn, so it's a good idea to buy as many soldiers as he can. I believe he has... No, he still only has 1 barracks. Buys 2 more soldiers. We can hear him talking on the video. He's actually feeling a little bit of pressure from the Ice player here. Said Fire's inning at 5 and 0. Definitely missed some resources here and there. Going to Snod with this final play. He says he has to leave after this turn. And then the developer takes over. The developer. Me. Putting in the full investment. 10 food for 5 building materials here. This is an easy upgrade to Tier 2 play. Catch up with everyone else. He does go to Tier 2. Time to empty the box, baby. Activating Call in the Navy, which is going to generate a lot of soldiers based on the tiles that he owns. Doesn't own that lake on the outside, which we said could have been a very, very crucial tile early on. It would enhance his... defenses and also get him 4 other soldiers here. He would truly empty his box. Also now has access to the Mer People passive, which allows him to train an additional 3 soldiers without a barracks from a lake per turn. And you're starting to hear chat around the table saying, ooh, he's not the weak guy we thought he was. This is the big Water turnaround. So he actually only bought 5 soldiers here. Armies on the board. Way more soldiers than anyone else has. And he activates his 3rd Tier 2 ability, activating all 3 of them in the same turn. When did that river get longer? And this is the betrayal of the Ice player. Sinking the Ice player's buildings and units on that tile to the depths, and the river is now 4 tiles long. The Water player can travel the entire length in 1 turn. Yikes! The Ice player has helped out Water a little bit. The Water player's thrown a little abilities thrown his way. Like we said early on in these set of videos, Water simply keeping him alive so that he can do the killing later on in the game. But if you can see, he's got almost all of his soldiers on this 1 tile here. I believe we've got 5 armies on this tile. There are several advantage cards in the game that will show you that this is a mistake. We'll see if any of them get played out here. Water attacks a fire tile, a naked fire tile with their general. That's a guaranteed win for them. Takes that forest tile back for himself. He does attack that newly found river since he can travel the entire length in one turn. He now owns 4 river tiles, and he's one tile away from cracking in behind ice lines, 2 tiles away from killing his capital. Ice is on a very, very, very short timeline here. And Snod leaves. The developer sits in the Water Nation's chair. Let's see if we can continue this awesome turnaround that Water has done for himself. We go to Air, sitting at 31 and 20, could go tier 3 here. Air is weighing his math on attacking this other boss tile. This boss, Lorgaroth, has 70 health. But Air owns 3 field tiles and has a Tailwind bonus. He's adding on 4 to whatever his soldier's dice roll is. If he can amass a couple of armies, that's a pretty competent win for himself. He also activates the Warm Front ability, which is going to triple the effect of Tailwind here. He is now adding 6 onto all of his soldiers' dice rolls here. He does have his general and I believe it appears to be an army there and a couple soldiers. If he rolls a 1 on each of those, I don't think it's a win. But anything higher on either of those rolls, so he just has to not roll a 1 twice. So a 35 out of 36 chance of killing this boss. He's a very statistical player, though. He might not take the not 100% battle. Look at him. He's acquiring leftover quesadillas at the table. This game does make a man hungry. He's asking, he said, what would it take for me to guarantee get over 70? Like I said, it is a 1 out of 36 shot for him to not kill this tile if he attacks it with what he has now. And he's still not satisfied with it. He trained 1 additional soldier to make it a 36 out of 36 chance there. He does go tier 3 to access the High Road ability. So he's currently sitting at 11 and 0. And High Road is the only card in the game with this effect. The same units that win one battle can immediately attack again, giving just huge forward momentum to the Air player. This is the only card in the game that has this effect. And Air, I've never seen this done before in all of our playtests, is counting this NPC battle as one of his battles. So it's going to be an NPC battle, and then he's going to start to go for the Water Nation here. And when Air is on the attack at this stage of the game, you do not want to be on the other side of it. They have a massive dice roll advantage. Like we said, he's adding 6 onto all of his soldiers' dice rolls. Even if Water gets their, 5 or 6 armies standing in the way, it's not even a confident win. So now we have a very interesting situation, and this is a dynamic to the game that does frequently occur here. We've got Air pushing on the outer borders of Water and Water pushing on the outer borders of Ice. Here's the deal. If Water is able to kill the Ice player here, then this capital will remove Ice from the game, and Water will then have access to 2 capitals. Which means if Air kills this capital, Water is not out of the game. If you remove someone's capital, you have access to that capital as well. So Water's really, their only out here is to kill the other player. It's their only way to stay in this game. And when I say the Water player, I do mean myself. Goes ahead and activates the Soulwell card that he acquired from the boss tile, giving him an additional 4 troops in this surge of soldiers that is attacking Water's borders here. Insanity! He's now taking the Dragon's Lair. He is tier 3, so he can do 3 attacks here, so that's 2 attacks now. He's sitting at 8 food because he did buy that additional soldier before the boss battle. Now, this is where lines are a little blurry here on procedure, but we are still pretty new at this game here. He activates the Sustenance Alone advantage card, which is going to give him 10 food now, but he has to pay 15 food back next turn. But then what he does, man, this guy has had some good advantage cards in this game. He activates Taming the Dragon just once, the advantage card. By paying 9 food, he can activate essentially the Dragon's Lair ability to incinerate the units on any tile on the board. And what, of course, is he going to choose? The Water player over here that has made their epic comeback, now has 25 soldiers sitting on 1 tile. Incinerating 25 soldiers for 9 food, that's a pretty good cost here. Problem with this play is it all should have happened before all of his attacks, but whatever. I don't care. Hypey play. When we get a little more experience, we'll be a little more strict with these rules. He definitely should have activated the dragon before he does any of these attacks, but I'm cool with it. This is an awesome play for Air to, really make their presence known on the board. Hasn't been involved in really any action so far in this game, and then, of course, makes the most shattering play. And just as I take over the Water Nation, all of my units are gone. Blasted. And that is why you spread out your units, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, that's why you spread them out. So now Air just utilized that Dragon Advantage card, now owns the Dragon's Lair, and conveniently has 3 soldiers there. If he sees a threat on the board, he can incinerate them next turn by sacrificing these 3 soldiers. Air in a commanding position right here. Once again, me as the water player, my only out is to eliminate the ice player. And because I have this extra long river, I can get back to exactly where I was the turn before. So we'll see if we can do it. He activates the Shifting Winds ability. Figures I'm in a commanding enough lead here. I'm going to shift the direction of Tailwind, facing it south. I've gone enough east. I'm not feeling the threat of water against me. I'm going to shift it south so that fire and ice pose no threat to me. Me as the water player, I'm pretty thankful for this. This is giving me a little bonus here in my out, potentially. Maybe Air did this a little early. So we're going into turn 9, and the next weather event is Termites, immediately removing half of all building materials. And how the rule goes is whenever we always round down in Empires of Aether. So we see our new updated resource totals as we head into turn 9. Water, with a very, very healthy amount of food, they can generate a lot of soldiers if they had the barracks to do it. With Mer people, they can train up to 6 soldiers per turn. Since I only have 1 barracks here, I would love to build another barracks in order to train more soldiers. But losing half of those building materials means that I can't also fortify my borders. So Air is going to be coming knocking in. Pretty dirty. Let's see how Ice responds to my aggression. Maybe they go for a similar thing. If they can kill fire before I kill them, then I'm out of the game. I'm toast. Trying to get a little more building materials here. This is a strange move, as water's going to be knocking on their door this turn. So he's spending 3 building materials where he's probably not going to be able to get to reap any of the benefits there. Fire gets one of the best best announce cards in the game. Gets a shipment of 10 building materials shipped to their colony, immediately happening after the Termites event. Very fortuitous for him. Goes to the Elemental Temple, spends 10 and 10 to buy back his volcano. Unfortunately, though, can't activate that this turn, meaning he can't get those economic benefits this turn, which is pretty impactful for his survival in this game. Actually, his volcano is just a tier 1 ability, so never mind, he goes to 6 and 10. He fortifies his rainforest to thwart an outside ice attack here, building 1 defensive fortification. And he trains a couple more soldiers. Me as the water player, noting the threat of Air, I've got a few advantage cards up my sleeve right now, so I can negate a little bit of the effects of his attack here. And so I want to remove any outside factors from him. I activate an advantage card that forces him to throw away one of his advantage cards. However, it was a non-impactful card. Unfortunately, he throws away the life insurance card. Trading in the last turn that we can, trade in food for building materials. And we went ahead and immediately trained 6 soldiers, each at 3 food apiece. That's going to put us to 14 and 9. And we sent them straight down the river, back to where they were just incinerated by the dragon. And then, understanding that Air is going to have to take a couple of turns to kill me, at least 3 turns without any outside advantage cards here, I construct a barracks with my last building materials on that final river tile, putting me to 14 and 6, and I can train 3 more soldiers from there. With my final Building materials, I'm going to make this tile right here my last stand when air is coming in, and so I construct 2 defensive fortifications on that tile. I roll against a naked tile. Like I said, Glacier is not going to likely get to reap the economic benefits of constructing that forest building there. I was attacking with 3 soldiers there, so all I need to do is roll higher than a 1 to take that forest, because if I roll a 2, then that puts me at a value of 6, which is greater than his natural defense of 5. Then I attack on the other side of the map and obtain a free field via that combat, striking back a little bit at the Air Nation. And look at me positioning 2 tiles away from his capital tile. He has next to no soldiers here. What I could do is, if I get more building materials this next turn, I can construct a barracks here, get more soldiers, and start pushing them into him, potentially killing him before he can kill me. Something to consider as the air player. Air takes his Swift to the Front ability, utilizes it for a second time after reactivating with Elemental Temple, places a second barracks on this lake here. By this play, it looks like he's positioning to maybe go and try to attack fire. If the attack against me doesn't work, then maybe he's using fire as a secondary option. Fire investing a lot of resources in the defense against ice, because ice is about to be coming in here in the next couple of turns, provided that they don't die to the Water Nation. So he's utilizing it as a secondary option. Air definitely wants to train soldiers here. Either to just guarantee his win over here. If he gets more soldiers out here against me, then he can take multiple tiles, and he can just bleed me out over the next couple of turns. Or he's going to train soldiers here at his home base, which is going to largely prevent me from attacking. The other thing here is that water has no offensive bonuses. I have defensive bonuses. So if I were to attack this mountain next turn, he could then just attack me with whatever soldiers he generates with, massive attack bonuses. I want to attack him without him being able to attack me, right? Makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm probably not going to go straight for the mountain and then his capital, and he probably knows this as well. What I want to be able to do is spread out and take multiple of his tiles on his land as well, and hopefully starve him out. All in all, he's in a much better position. And as it looks like we're running out of time on this footage, the rest of our video footage did get corrupt. What do we think happened? How did it play out? Well, let me tell you. It went a little something like this. Air took 3 of my tiles this turn, attacking me. I believe he took me here and here. And then I believe he attacked me here. I'm running out of land, which means I'm running out of resources. And in a desperate attempt, as soon as the market tile becomes the Aether tile in the next turn, I desperately take it up. Let's not skip over the turns here. Glacier U's actually setting sail, encroaches on the land here, and puts pressure at this junction right here. Ice, much stronger than fire at this point. Fire starved of resources. Simply utilizes their resources to put up a little more defense, purchase a couple more soldiers. Ice looking like they could win that if they get to survive. But because I take up the Aether element, the central theme of this game, I utilize the primitive napalm ability that fire activated on their turn this turn to weaken the defenses of the Ice Nation, where I believe they cracked back at this lake tile, I believe. And so that allowed me to reactivate it, in which my soldiers could then kill his capital tile right here. So I did get a kill! However, the weakness of the Aether Nation right now is that it is not... It's a finisher. It's not a long-term solution. With this play, I was plumb out of resources. Fire, plumb out of resources. Glacier, out of the game. Air. Lots of land. Quickly approaching 18 tiles owned. And all he had to do was wait a couple of turns to get to 50 and 50. All in all, this game ended at turn 11. On average, our games have been ending between turns 10 and 12. However, there was a game ended at turn 6 in one of my playtests. That was pretty juicy. Turn 6 finish. Very, very, very juicy. Thank you for the finale. Thank you for tuning in. Check out empiresofaether.com for more details on this game. Please follow all of our social media, including our Discord server, where you can interact with me and anyone else that is working hand in hand with this game. Appreciate it. Follow this channel. Subscribe to this channel.